The air in Rome is thick with triumph. Triumphal arches claw at the sky, their stone bellies bloated with reliefs of captured enemies and conquered lands. The streets rumble with the thunder of returning legions, their armor gleaming like 1,000 eyes, their chariots laden with the spoils of war. For the Roman citizen, this is the face of their empire: glory, power, expansion. The public narrative is a gilded tapestry woven with tales of heroic victories, of a civilization destined for eternal greatness, a city enriched by the endless tide of conquest. You are told to be proud, you are told to stand tall. But what if you were a woman, standing not on the paved road to the Forum, but in the cool, quiet shadow of a small home on a side street? You hear the roar of the crowd, but it feels distant, a celebration you have no part in. You see the parades, but they are parades of other people's brothers, other people's fathers. The narrative of glory is not your story. Your story is written in the private moments, in the quiet reality of a life put on hold. This is the unseen history, the history deliberately left out of the stone inscriptions and the official chronicles, the stories of those who paid the private price for Rome's public power. This cinematic journey will peel back the glorious facade of the empire and descend into the profound, often tragic, psychological and social fates of Roman wives. We will walk with women from all social strata, from the patrician's elegant villa to the plebeian's cramped insula, who were left to navigate a world without the men who defined their lives. It is a story of prolonged absence, of agonizing uncertainty, of sudden, brutal finality. A story that reveals a hidden facet of human suffering and trauma that echoed through the very foundations of the Roman world, a silent scream beneath the victorious cheers. Early life, origins, Tao, the fabric of Roman matrimony. Before the silence, there was the promise. A Roman woman's life was a meticulously woven fabric, its threads dictated not by passion, but by pragmatism. For most, marriage was a strategic alliance, a cold contract for political leverage, social stability, and the production of heirs. A father's duty was to secure a match that would elevate the family, solidify an alliance, or at the very least not diminish their standing. You were not a person in your own right, but a link in a chain. Your identity, your purpose, your very place in the world was intrinsically tied to your husband's status. A soldier's wife, a senator's wife, a merchant's wife. The title preceded your name, a brand of ownership and purpose. The ideal Roman wife, the matrona, was a pillar of the household. She was expected to be a model of chastity and virtue, frugal and skilled in the arts of household management. Her world was the atrium, the kitchen, the loom. Her public role was minimal, her private duties paramount. She managed the slaves, raised the children, and spun the wool. Her loyalty was to her husband and her family. That was the script written for you. But every script in this empire had a shadow. Even in peacetime, the rustle of a legionary's standard, the distant clang of swords, the very whisper of Mars, the god of war, hung over every household. The departure of a husband for a campaign was not a matter of if, but of when. It was a normalized, yet deeply disruptive event. It was the moment the stable, well-ordered world you were born into began to fray, a tear in the perfect fabric. First contact with horror, tragedy, the farewell and the waiting. The morning air is crisp, still tinged with the cold of dawn. A public spectacle is unfolding, a grand show of Roman stoicism. The men are marching, their faces set, their purpose clear. The wives stand in the sidelines, their expressions carefully composed. A public display of quiet strength is expected. Tears are for the weak. You are a Roman woman, you are to be strong. The last look, the final touch, the ghost of a kiss, all of it must be contained. To show too much emotion would be unseemly, a sign of weakness in the face of Roman resolve. But beneath that flawless veneer, a frantic prayer is a knife in your gut. For in this private moment, the terrifying truth is laid bare. The man who is your protector, your provider, your societal anchor, is marching away from you. The powerlessness is a physical weight pressing down on your shoulders. Then comes the long silence, Weeks stretch into months, and months into years, a vast, echoing void of unknowing. No letters, no calls, just the agonizing uncertainty of rumors. Did they take a fortress in Gaul? Were they ambushed in the German forests? The air becomes thick with fear, a slow, seeping dread that contaminates every moment. A rustle in the street makes you jump. A knock at the door sends a shock of ice through your veins. You exist in a state of liminality, a suspended state between two realities, one where he is alive and one where he is not. You are neither a wife with a husband by your side, nor a widow in mourning. You are a ghost of both. The first casualties of war are not always on the battlefield. The first casualties are the lists of the fallen, the names that begin to circulate in hushed whispers, the slow seep of dread into the Roman home. For many, this is their first visceral encounter with the true horror of war, a terror not of blood and steel but of silence and space. The horror you face is not on a distant shore, but in the quiet, echoing silence of your own home, in the frantic beating of your own heart. Capture and transformation, initiation, the widow's new reality. The knock, when it finally comes, is not the one you have been dreading, but it is every bit as final. It is the officia, word, delivered by a messenger with a somber face and a tablet in his hand. Your husband, your anchor, your identity is gone. The death notification is a brutal, cold piece of finality. The rituals of mourning are prescribed, the dark clothes, the public lamentations, the respectful seclusion, but these are just empty forms. Your personal grief is a raging torrent beneath the surface, a brutal tidal wave of identity loss. You are no longer the wife of. You are a blank space, a person undone. The immediate reality is stark, particularly for the lower and middle-class wives. Widowhood means immediate economic precarity. The family's financial support vanishes with the husband. His property, his business, his very presence, which provided your social standing, is gone. Survival, a word you never had to consider, suddenly becomes paramount. You are forced to look at the world through the unblinking, unyielding eyes of necessity. This is your initiation, not into some glorious mystery cult, but into a harsh, new reality. You are suddenly thrust into roles you were never prepared for. The management of estates, the burden of raising children alone, the navigation of a patriarchal society without a male protector. This new life is not a choice. It is an imposition. It is a transformation born of pain, a brutal and irreversible forging of a new, harder identity. You have been recast in the crucible of loss, and your new reality is a world you must face alone. 5. Life in oppressive system. Rome's unforgiving laws and social structures. The new reality is not just about grief, but about a constant, grinding struggle against a system designed to keep you powerless. Roman law, like the Roman state itself, was built by men, for men. As a widow, you are at a legal disadvantage, a child in the eyes of the law. You struggle to secure your dower, to manage inheritances, to protect your children's rights from grasping relatives. You are a vulnerable vessel, adrift on a sea of exploitation. The vultures of society, those who prey on the weak, circle with predatory intent. While society offers you a veneer of pity, you face an insidious layer of social isolation and stigma. If you are childless, you are seen as an incomplete failure, a barren vessel. If you are perceived as not mourning long enough, or if you seem too content, you are a source of suspicion. The pressure to remarry is immense, not for love, but for practical reasons. To regain your social standing, to have a protector, a man, to navigate the complex legal landscape for you. You are a prize to be won, a tool to be used. You are not a person, but an asset. The burden of orphans is perhaps the heaviest of all. You are a single parent in a society that values male lineage above all. The emotional and practical challenges of raising children in poverty without a father to guide them can be crushing. You become a living paradox, both a symbol of Rome's sacrifice and a vulnerable outsider in its unforgiving system. Key conflicts and inner struggles. Despair, resilience, and forbidden secrets. The external battles against a hostile society are only half of the war. The other half rages within you. The psychological trauma of loss, the chronic stress of survival, the gnawing anxiety of every single day. They are a constant, invisible enemy. The internal battles against despair, against the crushing loneliness, against the impossible weight of societal expectations. These are the real, silent wars you fight every hour. The fight for autonomy is a key conflict, an internal tug-of-war. The traditional expectations of female submission tell you to be pliant, to find a new man to protect you. But a fierce, untamed need for self-preservation and the desperate need to protect your children ignite a different fire within you. You must become your own protector. You must learn to be cunning, to be strong, to be a survivor. Some women, pushed to the brink, resort to forbidden paths. They take on illicit affairs for financial support or companionship in a world that denies them both. They engage in trades considered unbecoming for a respectable woman, their hands growing calloused and their hearts hardening. Some turn to clandestine spiritual practices, seeking solace or control in a world that has stripped them of both. These are the secret lives, the hidden sorrows, the small acts of rebellion born not of defiance, but of necessity. Attempts at resistance or turning points, forging new identities. But not all succumb to the weight. Some women, faced with the crushing reality of their new lives, find a new kind of strength. These are the acts of quiet resistance, of forging new identities in the crucible of loss. These are the turning points. A widow successfully manages her husband's business, her sharp mind and fierce will surprising the male competitors who once dismissed her. Another becomes a skilled craftswoman, her hands now creating not just for the home, but for profit. They form support networks with other women, a silent pact of survival, sharing resources and strength. These women are carving out a new path, a path of their own. For women from wealthy families, resistance takes a different form. They leverage their social capital, their education, and their remaining family connections. They become patrons in their own right, influencing politics through their sons, their subtle touch steering the course of public life from the shadows. They are the puppet masters, the unseen hands guiding the men in power. For the majority, the ultimate act of resilience is the power of motherhood. It is a quiet, fierce act of rebellion against a world that tried to erase them. They raise their children, instill in them Roman values, and ensure the continuation of their family line, even amidst immense hardship. Their survival is not for themselves, but for the future. Their quiet heroism is a legacy written not in stone, but in the souls of the generations they raise. Climax or ultimate fate, the echoes of loss and a new dawn. The ultimate fate of these women is as diverse as their lives. Some succumb to poverty and hardship, their names lost to the ages. Others remarry, finding new stability, but never truly forgetting the woman they were forced to become. A few carve out legacies of remarkable independence, their stories whispered among the women of the city, a quiet testament to their strength. The most complex and brutal dynamic is the return of veterans, or lack thereof. What happens when a husband, long thought dead, unexpectedly returns? He is often traumatized, a ghost of the man who left. You, the woman who learned to survive without him, are no longer the same either. The ghost of your marriage hangs in the air, a finality of its own. Even for those who found new lives, the scars remain. The indelible mark of their ordeal is a permanent shift in perspective, a hardened resilience, a lingering trauma. They are not the same women who said goodbye to their husbands on the city streets. They are survivors, forged in the fires of loss. Legacy and historical impact, the unsung. Architects of Rome, these women, with their silent suffering and incredible resilience, were the very pillars of Roman society. They maintained the households, raised the citizens, and preserved the social order in the absence of men. They were the unsung architects of Rome's eternal city, their legacy written in the continuation of the family line, in the resilience of their children, in the silent strength that held a society together. Their experiences and survival strategies subtly influenced the upbringing of subsequent generations. Their children would carry forward the lessons of hardship and resilience, a legacy of quiet strength. The enduring silence surrounding their stories is perhaps the most profound injustice. They are absent from the official histories, their contributions overshadowed by the narratives of male glory and conquest. Their legacy is often found not in the marble halls, but in the quiet strength of the women who came after them, a hidden truth passed down through generations. Reflection and haunting. Conclusion. The true cost of empire. The human cost of an empire is not just paid in blood on distant battlefields. It is paid in the unseen suffering and quiet strength of the women left behind. Theirs is the unacknowledged debt, a haunting reflection on the true price of Roman conquest. Their struggles are a universal truth that resonates across cultures and time. The quiet heroism of enduring unimaginable circumstances, of finding strength where there was only despair, is a testament to the human spirit. As Rome celebrated its conquests, did it ever truly acknowledge the profound sacrifice and trauma endured by its wives? Their silent strength, their untold stories, forever echo as Rome's darkest secret.